continuing the conversation surrounding education. With us now, Scott Long. He's the principal of Doherty Elementary. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Ronnie. How are you today?
We're great. I just think the teachers have been doing an amazing job with the little ones, because it's got to be so hard to try to explain socially distant and wearing a mask to 5 and 6 year olds.
I got to give a lot of credit. I would agree with you. I got to give a lot of credit to our teaching staff. They have done a phenomenal job, but I also got to give a lot of credit to our parents, because I got to say, 3 or 4 weeks prior to starting school, when we talked as a staff, we had no idea if kids were going to be able to keep masks on, if they were going to be able to stay socially distanced. And they have pleasantly surprised me and gone above and beyond. And so that's a huge tribute to the kids. That's a huge tribute to the parents for reinforcing what we're trying to accomplish in the school. And then obviously a huge tribute to our staff and pretty much unlearning everything they know about what it looks like in a classroom. Typically we have kids huddled together, working in groups, and you don't see that anymore. So definitely all the way around, just a great effort by everybody.
Okay, so now your school is what, K through second grade?
That's correct. It's like my own personal Disney World. It's like, if you're ever in a bad mood, Ronnie, you just come to Doherty Elementary. It's impossible to stay in that bad mood.
I don't know. It seems to me I'd be pulling my hair out, though. The energy of kids, I wouldn't be able to keep up.
The energy, yes, there's definitely a lot of energy, which keeps me young. I can't say that it kept my hair on my head, but it keeps me young. And also, they're just adorable and innocent, and they just want to do the right thing consistently. And so, like, even if you do, you're struggling with patience, their cuteness and they're eager to please nature just puts you in the right frame of mind.
So, are you in class right now?
We are actually heading back tomorrow. We've been remote for the last 8 weeks, roughly, like beginning in November. Before that, we were in class from the end of August all the way up to the beginning of November. And we're heading back tomorrow. So kids are super excited to see each other and be back in class with their friends. I know our staff is really excited. Like you talked about, bless kindergarten and first and second grade teachers. They are just chomping at the bit to see their kids again. So.
Right, because it's so much is about relationships, and trying to remote teach, the young ones is a lot different than junior high and high school, because they can kind of grasp some of the things that's going on in the country. But when it comes to the small kids, what's going to be different for them when they go back to the classroom tomorrow?
I think the biggest difference is there's going to be that excitement because they've been learning from a computer screen for so long. And so, like I said earlier, they're so eager to be around learning that, there's just going to be a lot of excitement about things. I think there's probably going to be like an underlying fear of, hey, will we get closed down again? And so I think they're going to be extra mindful and extra cautious about making sure their masks are on their face, making sure they're washing their hands. I think they're going to be a little bit more conscientious of those things than a typical kindergarten, first and second grader would in a normal school year. So I think those would be big changes.
Yeah. So is it actually kind of easier to teach them these habits when they're younger because they don't know any different?
Absolutely. That's what I found. And I thought their youth and being so young and energetic would be something that would hamstring them from being successful with those things, but they don't know any different. My son's actually a kindergartner at Doherty, and I was wondering if he would be able to keep his mask on, and he doesn't know any different, and he's just thriving and doing a good job with those things. And I would say the same thing for all of our kids. It hasn't been as much of a battle as we anticipated. Now, I will say we're in a half-day model, right? So like our kids are only with us for a half a day before they go home. We do have a collection of kids that stay on campus for cloud care, for parents that sign their kids up for that. And they're in mass all day, and they're doing just fine with that. So maybe the half-day thing isn't as much of an issue as I thought, just knowing how great our kids are doing that are in the building all day long.
You said cloud class? What is that?
Yeah, so we have families that choose to sign their kids up for, essentially it's daycare. So when the kids are done with their cohort, they can stay for another 3 hours in school. Again, all the socially distanced, mask, all those things are taking place. But the kids that are there are basically, they're not with their classroom teacher, but they're doing homework assignments, online learning assignments. They're playing games, they're going outside, eating their lunch, things like that.
Well, I would imagine for parents, that's probably so important, because we have to remember there are some parents that, they do have jobs and it doesn't allow them to be virtual. And so that has to be a relief for a lot of parents out there.
I'm one of those parents. Like I said, you know, my son comes to school with me, and he's the morning cohort, and he can't go home. My wife's working, and so thankfully he's, you know, we're able to pay for that for him to stay on campus. Yeah, so definitely for working families, it does work out really well.
But your poor son, he's like, man, I have my dad as my principal, and then I got to go home too.
You know, it's funny you say that. Like, it's kind of cool to him now because he does, you know, he's not old enough to like rebel against his dad. You know, by the time he gets to third, fourth, fifth grade, he will be gone and he won't have to deal with me. And that's when that, you know, that tension, I think, starts to begin. But it has been a challenge, like over the last 8 weeks. You know, he's doing his remote learning in my hip pocket while I'm doing my job. And I think he started to get a little bit, he wanted his space from dad, you know, so he doesn't see me much when we're actually in the building. I kind of keep my distance from him.
How is the conversation with some of the parents? Because, you know, we're trying to teach the kids, no, you can't be on the computer. No, put that video game down. But yet now we're telling them to sit in front of a computer.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's families on so many ends of the spectrum, right? Some families want more Zoom time and more screen time to keep their kids engaged and busy with learning opportunities. Some families are not entirely happy with how much time the kids are already on there. There's this tension too of families are more than ever being asked to do so many things. Their bandwidth is only so big, right? But they're being parent, they're being teacher in a sense, right? Over the last 8 weeks, they're being disciplinarian, they're being homemaker, cook, and they're working, right? So like, I think for our families, they're really excited to be able to get back to learning and have their kids in the building, to have that space and that breathing room. And I know they're also eager, as things get better with the vaccinations and everything, for our kids to be in the building the entire day, right? So it's all over the spectrum with the families and where they're at with things.
Well, and how's that going too with some of the kids and how they're learning as well? Are they learning at different levels because they are remote and some are logging on, some are logging off? So what's that going to be like for the teachers to try to get them all back on that same page?
Yeah, they're going to, you know, we can't come back assuming that everyone is all in the same place. And that's the same thing that we talked about at the beginning of the school year. And so teachers are going to have to catch kids up to speed, fill in gaps that, you know, may be existing because some families are able to help kids more at home over the last 8 weeks. So teachers are ready to roll up their sleeves and support kids and fill in those gaps as needed and just get kids to where they need to be. Because we know not every home looks different. Not every home looks the same. Not every family is able to give that level of academic support. And that's our job, is to get kids to where they need to be.
What about, I read a study recently and they were talking about the kids and obesity is going up in some of our kids now because they are spending so much time in front of the computer screen. By being able to get them back into the classroom, do you think that's going to help to start to address some of those issues?
I think, you know, there's not a ton of movement in the classrooms right now, right? Because they are 6 feet apart within the classroom. They're not going from their home class to their specials class. So there's not a whole lot of movement going on there. So I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. But I will say, like, we've really done a phenomenal job with the kids being at home, like creating some movement opportunities. Our physical education teachers are actually doing all of their instruction on Zoom. So when the kids are at home, they're doing physical fitness activities and leading the kids in workouts and exercises. And it's really created kind of a shift in how physical education classes work. Typically, when the kids are in the building doing physical education, it's more team games. It's more basketball, soccer, volleyball. Now what you're seeing is a shift to like exercising and life fitness and health. And so it's really cool to see the kids learn how to exercise and take care of themselves, because that's something that's going to transcend throughout their entire lives. And they're able to talk about nutrition a little bit more now that they're working remotely. The other thing is we've had great support from the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition. And one thing that they've done is they brought a yoga instructor in, and she comes and works with our kids weekly, virtually. So she leads a yoga class, and any kid in our building can sign up and do yoga in the comforts of their home. And so in a way, you know, obviously, we see those obesity concerns, but by thinking outside of the box, we've been able to do some things that we wouldn't normally have done.
You know, when I first heard about gym class being virtual, I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. You can't play kickball virtually. I don't even know if you're allowed to play kickball any longer. But then when you really think about it, we've been taking classes like boot camp classes or whatever online for years now. So it really isn't that much of a shift.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, I just started working out in my house and doing the boot camp thing on the TV, and my son's watching it. And the exercises are a little bit too advanced for him. So for his physical education teacher, she can bring it down a level to where he's capable of doing those motor movements and being successful. And guess what? He's seeing his friends do them at the same time. So it's been a unique shift for sure.
So we're speaking with Scott Long. He's the principal over at Doherty Elementary. They're heading back to the classroom starting tomorrow. With that, can we, have you been able to get vaccinated yet? What's that process like for you and some of the members of your team?
I'm not. I'm actually working on my appointment. I haven't been vaccinated yet, but a large contingency of our staff has. And so I would say at this point, as we go back into the building, I would say about 70% of our staff has gone through round one of the vaccinations. And then most of them, like me, that haven't been are in the queue for our appointments.
So what's it been like for you trying to sign up and even getting through to be able to make the appointment? Because we are hearing there is a lot of frustration out there with teachers trying to get in line for the vaccination.
I think once you get through like the confusion and the hoops of like how you do it, it hasn't been too bad. And I think a lot of our staff has been pleasantly surprised about that. But I think it depends on the person, right? For some reason, some teachers have had a hard time getting signed up and they can't get through, and then they're not getting an appointment. Whereas other ones have seamlessly jumped on and been able to get that appointment and had their vaccination done already. So I don't understand why that is, but it's very interesting to me.
Right. And as a principal, how does the conversation surrounding the vaccine play into your leadership plans?
Can you rephrase that question?
Like as a principal, how does the conversation around the vaccine play into your leadership plans? Or does it really at all? Because it's still going to be kind of, just because you have the vaccine, it's not the magic pill for you to go back to life as you knew it before.
Yeah, I don't think at this point it makes much of an impact on how I'm leading and what the things that I'm asking our staff to do, because they're still going to have to, regulate social distancing and masks. We're far from being out of the woods with those things, and staff can choose to get those vaccinations when they're ready to do it, right? So it doesn't really impact how I'm leading and what I'm doing and expecting from teachers and students.
Are you concerned that we'll see another surge here in Oakland County and you'll have to close down again?
Yeah, that's like, I don't want to. I love being in the building and seeing the kids. And so there's always going to be, for the rest of this year, that fear in the back of my mind that we're going to have to close down. And I'm sure that's going to be the case for pretty much all of our stakeholders. No one wants to shut down. The kids are coming to the building. Their parents want them to be here. So that's always going to be in the back of our head. And that's going to, I think, really create a sense of urgency for us to be extra mindful about how we implement the safety protocols that we have in place, right? Because no one wants that. So
yeah, it's got to be hard and you're a parent along with being the principal, but at least you have teaching behind you, that experience. I will say one thing coming out of this, I would imagine a lot of the parents out there appreciate teachers a lot more.
They do. And, one of the things I always say, and I've always said this to our families at Doherty, they are just a wonderfully supportive group of families, and they always have been since I've been here. I'm working on year 5 here. They've been amazing, and even more amazing during these times of challenge and requiring parents to be more flexible and agile. They've rallied around us. They've given us compliments and words of affirmation, and along the same lines, they said, wow, we didn't realize how tough this can be. But it's almost unfair, Ronnie, because kids will listen to another adult more than they typically listen to their parents when their parents are there all day, right? There's always that tension between a kid and their own parent. And then that's why we send our kids to go play sports with another coach who is outside of it. So it's almost an unfair comparison to say, oh, families, you're having a hard time teaching your kid. See how hard teaching is? It's not apples and apples, right? You're comparing apples and oranges.
So with that, anything that maybe we didn't touch on before we let you go?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say, I think this is one of the big reasons why I'm here, is Kindergarten Roundup is coming up soon. So families, if you're in the West Bloomfield community or looking to have your student learn in West Bloomfield, we're actually hosting a Kindergarten Roundup January 20th at 6:30 p.m. It's via Zoom. if families want to find that link and more information about Kindergarten Roundup, you can go to wbsd.org. Under the parent tab, there's a kindergarten page, and it has all that information. And that's what our principals are going to be there explaining how to get your child enrolled, what makes our school district such a unique and amazing school district, and how to get, set up to have a successful transition to kindergarten next year.
And I will say, if you go to your website, it does pop up immediately, so you'll notice it as well, and you can click on it right from there. And are you worried that some parents are going to choose not to enroll their kids because of the hybrid or the in-person, or not being allowed to be in person 24/7?
Well, so we don't even know what next year is going to look like, right? We could be full days. We don't know that yet. And so I expect our families to enroll and wait to see what's going to happen. But I also, I'm wondering, some of the families who chose not to enroll their kids this year that should have been in kindergarten, are we going to have a bigger influx of kids than we anticipated? So that's going to be very interesting. I think families are excited to get their kids enrolled in kindergarten and ready to go. I'm looking forward to a great turnout at our Kindergarten Roundup, and I'm looking forward to our new group of kindergartners. They always light up my world as they come in, and it's so much fun to see them grow from kindergarten to second grade before they leave us.
So, Principal, with that, do they have to be in the West Bloomfield School District area, or is it open to schools of choice again?
We actually have a school of choice timeline, and so actually families can apply right now all the way until February 2nd. That's when the application for schools of choice stops. And then from there, there's a lottery where kids get selected based on a lottery system, and that happens on February 17th. So any families that apply between now and February 2nd, they will find out by February 17th whether or not they're in for schools of choice.
And how does that work in the middle of a pandemic? Because it's kind of hard to do count day right now.
Oh my gosh, nothing is easy, Ronnie, right? It's hard to do count day. It's hard to let families know that we're going to have Kindergarten Roundup. I mean, this time last year, Ronnie, our Kindergarten Roundup families were in the buildings. We were able to give them tours of classrooms and, see what our cafeteria looked like. And you never have a concern about Kindergarten Roundup in person. They just all show up. They all find out, and they're all there. This year, I'm wondering what it's going to look like, just like attendance and count day and everything.
Well, we're all changing and trying to take things in stride as it comes along, but we're very lucky to have principals such as yourself within our district, and so many great teachers as well, dedicated and passionate about the kids. And good luck having them back in class, and fingers crossed you can stay open the remainder of the school year.
Ronnie, thanks so much for having me on. And again, just thanks to all the families out there that just do a wonderful job supporting us through these crazy times.